Here.
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Moore.
Here.
Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Alder DePula.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looks like we have some guests this evening. So welcome. I mean, your shirt, right?
It's pretty darn close to that, Mayor, yes.
Okay, anything else on the pursuit policy? Doug?
Yeah, just so, as I understand it, the main change is in the, like, right now, the officer would have to have probable cause to believe that a violent felony has been committed or is about to be committed. Is that right? And
Yes.
that's, and it was, I think we adopted that a year and a half, 2 years ago.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. And may have sort of overreached a little bit, I guess, in hindsight. So what would the, well, we have the proposed language. I don't need you to go through it, but that's, to me, was the main gist of this change. Would you agree?
Yeah, with respect to action of being able to do something or not to do something, set aside there's also important changes in definition, et cetera, that are sort of standardizing what the state uses.
Right.
But to your point, yes, I believe that we were, your police department was restricted in a sense, as it's appropriate. That's what policy is for. But more than I think you intended it to be. From a new chief looking sort of how this police department operates and working under the mayor and all of you, I don't know if you knew or the general public knew that we were quite restricted in what we could and could not pursue. We were limited to only violent acts. So I gave the example of a burglary, of a home burglary, where the item taken, even though the person was home, was property that did not rise to the level of a violent act. So we could not then try to get this resident's car back in a pursuit when the conditions were, it's a dangerous act of pursuing somebody. It's one of the most, as you and I spoke about, Alder,
Right.
one of the most dangerous things that law enforcement can do. But we have an abundance of training and review to make sure we do these safely and that officers use their judgment and discretion and rely on their training. So what this now does allow us to do is try and make an effort to pursue that vehicle or that suspect and get property back and to hold people accountable. Versus before, we weren't even able to pursue that vehicle if it took off from us.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Alder Moore?
Yeah, just to go to the examples that you used the last time, Chief, and that you just referenced again as it relates to the theft of a vehicle. I know that when we did change it a year and a half ago or something, our concern was, of course, that in that pursuit we were endangering other people potentially. And so in the examples that you've given, it's just hard for me to imagine a high-speed, maybe on the Beltline, maybe on Broadway or Monona, but it's hard for me to otherwise imagine a higher speed pursuit, let's say in the neighborhoods of Monona, with a stolen vehicle. So, I mean, were those instances where that wouldn't cause potential harm to someone just because it's a fairly dense residential area in comparison. So can you kind of, thinking about those other instances where you couldn't do something, can you enlighten me a little bit as to were those situations where you could have, with this policy, could you have safely pursued those vehicles without endangering anyone?
So if I understand the question currently, with our current policy,
Right.
Could we pursue a stolen vehicle, period? It depends. It depends on what we know of the circumstances of that stolen
Sure,
vehicle.
sure.
Was it taken at gunpoint?
Right.
Is the person involved a violent offender who we know is likely
Sure,
going to do
no,
X,
I get
Y,
that.
and Z?
I'm just saying if it's just a stolen vehicle, you know it's a stolen vehicle, but they're in a relatively dense residential
Right.
area. You're saying that part of the reason why you want this changed is to be able to pursue scenarios like that.
Policy. Duty to respond, our duty to render aid. And so Lexipol has a standalone medical aid response that I'm asking us to adopt. But if you look at the now approved use of force policy, it also still has language in there about when we need to render aid to persons in need. So you sort of have both. You have the use of force policy, which speaks of it now, and then you have this, what I'm asking you to approve, this medical aid and response policy that goes into greater detail about when we shall render aid and under what circumstances.
Questions, anyone? Okay, if there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business, item 2A, consideration of resolution 22-11-2603, adopting the 2023 operating budget and establishing a tax levy. Put forward by the mayor. and this is just a first read, so we have
All the programs
all the department heads are here, most of them on Zoom. If you have questions for them, Mark has put together 2 technical amendments for things that have changed since he and I finalized the budget. Do you want to talk about those a little bit, Mark, and then we can see if anyone has any questions for...
I want to tell the kids what we're doing.
Sure. Alder Thomas, do you want to explain, or do you want me to? Mark, do you want to explain what we're doing? I'll explain. Every year, we plan how much money we're going to spend to operate the city for the next year. So how much we'll pay people for their salaries, how much we'll pay to heat the city buildings, like the library, and for electricity, and for the police gas for their cars, and things like that, books for the library. It's called the operating budget. And I put the budget together with Mark, who's our finance director. He's in charge of all the money. And then we bring it to the city council to consider whether or not they'd like to pass what I've proposed, or if they want to make changes. And this is what you call, tonight is the first read of the budget. So we've had meetings to discuss it in depth the last 2 weeks, and now we're having the first read where if anyone has further questions for the department heads, they can ask them. And if they want to make any proposals for changes, they can do them this week or 2 weeks from now. So that's what we're doing.
And then you can tell your folks, because then the way we get the money to pay for these things
Forgot about that part, yeah.
is to send them a property tax bill.
Yes.
And so we try and keep it reasonable. We do it, the school does it, the county does it. And so you can tell your folks you learned about property taxes tonight in the budget, because they'll know about that piece.
Ask them in December. And,
I mean, it's kind of like when you go trick-or-treating and your parents take a little bit of your candy, the parent tax.
Tell them we do wonderful things with the money.
Right.
So
Okay,
we have
Mark.
2 budget amendments we have right now. They're kind of technical ones. One is so $15,000 to increase our donations revenues. The Friends of St. Damiano are donating $15,000 to cover operating expenses at the park for 2023. And we want to allocate that out and show 2 separate line items: the revenue coming in and the expense going out. With that.
Okay.
And the second one is another technical one that we took out, we're putting back in, was the change to the EMS professional development. The $6,000 increase basically was coming out of their fund balance. We're putting it back in because they were using their fund balance to pay for the project.
And we will be voting on those next week. So any questions about the technical amendments? And does anyone have any questions for any of the department heads about any of the other items in the operating budget? Alder Moore.
I don't have any questions. I just want to extend my thanks to all the department heads, and to you, Mayor, and to Mark. I know this is a bear of a budget. I know it's a challenging budget, particularly given our levy limits, and I just know that it takes a heck of a lot of work, and I really appreciate all the work that each of the department heads and their departments and all of the citizen committees as well that have reviewed your budgets have gone through to get us to this point, so thank you.
Well, thank you. I think everyone appreciates that, and as you know, this process started in June, so it's half the year we spend on the budget, and now down to the final stages here, so. Any questions, anybody? Doug?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to Mark, or have Mark answer question about the interest and dividends income under the miscellaneous revenues. He and I had emailed today about that. It's $100,000 in the 22 budget, projected to be 120 in the 23 budget. And I guess I was kind of wondering whether that. I appreciate being conservative in that number, but is that true conservative? And given that interest rates have gone up over 4%.
Yeah, and it probably will be a little bit higher, probably between the 150 to 175 range, based on just kind of what we're receiving now. My big concern is we did have that interest income kind of before the fall. I mean, kind of had to make up, over like 200 some thousand, and that really put a strain on the city, so that's why I wasn't really wanting to get too. I think for next year, if you see the rates are going or the same or stabilizing, I think that's a good time. I was just more concerned about what happens if they drop, and then we try to make up for that loss income,
Yeah,
which happened just like 2 years ago.
right.
But it definitely is probably lower than it probably could be, and I would agree with that.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any questions for the department heads at all, or? Okay. We'll be back next week to discuss that. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is go into closed session, and I'm sorry, but I'm afraid we'll have to ask everyone to leave while we do that. So, thank you for coming, though, and feel free to come back anytime. You're going to be.
You're the first.
You stayed. Yes. No, we're going to stay here.
You just leave them.
Yeah. Okay, so I think if the chiefs would like to leave too, I guess. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
We're doing the
Or,
agreement.
I'm sorry, I need to read the whole thing. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay, item 2B, convene in closed session under Wisconsin statute section 19.85, paren 1E, paren E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the switch things on again. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your patience, Chris. Next item, consideration and possible action concerning a development agreement with Besa Monona LLC, put forth by Attorney Cole. We did discuss this in closed session, and CDA Chair Stolper explained a lot of things as the Attorney Cole, so I think we have a pretty good idea of what's going on here. But Bill, do you want to just do a little explanation for the public?
Thank you, Mayor. Just, so this is a proposed development at Bridge Road and Broadway, the current Monona Gardens site. It's proposed to be a 4-story mixed-use development, 29 residential units, 16 live-work units, and 1 commercial unit. It is a tax increment finance project. The developer would guarantee that the assessed value would be $12,150,000, and then he would complete it by December 31 of 2024. In exchange for that, he would receive some TIF financing, which would amount to a pay-as-you-go proposal, meaning that he would be paid, as he pays his property taxes, he would be paid 2/3 of that amount each November, up to a maximum of $1,670,000. Other than that, the agreement has the standard provisions that Monona does require of all TIF developments. There would be limitations. He would not be able to sell to a tax-exempt entity. There are certain limitations on his ability to challenge his property taxes. We need to maintain that it is a taxable property while it is in the TIF district. That's about all there is. I can take questions if anybody wants it. Mr. Gosh is here as well, and Mr. Gosh would also like to be heard as to whether or not the council would take this up for approval in one reading tonight.
I'd like to move to take it out of order.
Second.
If you use the mic.
Been moved and seconded to take this out of order. Do we want to have Mr. Goss address that, or?
I think it'd be appropriate.
Okay. So if you'd like to just address why you'd like us to approve this tonight rather than 2 weeks from now. Just explain that would be good.
So, do I have to press this?
No.
No, you're good.
So, if we appreciate the consideration of taking this up tonight. Obviously, everyone knows there's a lot of volatility out there. We have been working on this, pretty diligently. We have great feedback from everybody throughout the process.
The one that works.
We periodically have mic problems, so.
I have to start over. I can't remember.
Borrow one of ours. Here, take mine. Jackson?
Again.
Jackson, take mine. Oh, you can't. Can he go to the podium?
Well, we put batteries in every time we're here.
Can you
He's
go to the
endorsed it.
podium?
Do you mind using that up there?
I have faith.
Sorry about that.
Not working? Okay.
I was like, did we put microphones in the operating budget?
So, if I can Reports and, environmental studies and everything ready to go. So just getting it would be the TIF financing, and then that plays into the overall project finances. So a couple months.
Couple months.
Yeah,
Shortly after the first of the year, maybe?
we're pushing as
Shortly as you can.
Yeah, as fast as we can, yes.
Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Thomas.
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Moore.
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Alder Rademacher.
Aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is consideration, let's see, Resolution 22-10-2600, accepting the City of Monona Americans with Disabilities Act ADA Park Transition Plan put forth by the Parks and Recreation Board. Dan Schmidt from MSA, who's the consultant on here on this project, which was in last year's capital budget, correct, or the 2022 capital budget, is here to talk about the report, and Parks Director Jake Anderson is also here. Jake, did you want to do a little intro, or? You there, Jake? Apparently not.
Could we have it displayed on this wall also?
Pardon?
Could this be displayed on both walls? Oh, there it goes. Thank you.
Okay.
Just like Jake says.
Are you texting him?
No volume on YouTube, or on Zoom, I should say. I don't know.
Where he is?
There's Jake.
Should be able to hear you now. I've got to unmute it after closed session.
Oh, okay. Okay, Jake, can you hear us now? Would you like to do a little intro before Dan explains the report?
Oh,
We're not hearing you.
can't hear.
Hold on 1 second, Jake.
Jackson? We can't hear Jake.
Yeah, you should be able to hear him. That's not us, I don't think.
Maybe he's on mute.
He doesn't look like he's on mute.
He's not on mute, so that maybe he needs to turn up his volume.
I'm sorry about this, council.
It shouldn't be us.
Check this out.
Click leave, but click it again. Then click leave audio. Then talk. There you go.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Should be working.
Can you talk? See if that works.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you.
Yeah, it is.
So Jake, do you want to just try saying something?
Dan, if you just want to go ahead for now.
Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
I thought we finally silenced him.
Jake, you want to do a little intro then?
I can pull up. I don't know if I guys their shift stream. I'm not allowed to just yet, but I can talk through it for now. And if I'm allowed to share screen, I can share a short presentation. Otherwise, thank you for having me tonight. It's been a long meeting so far, so we'll keep it as short as we can. My name is Dan Schmidt with MSA. We've been working with Jake over the course of the year to conduct an ADA audit and transition plan for all of the park facilities within the city of Monona. And there we go. There we go. So a quick overview of ADA, the audit that was conducted this year, and the transition plan, and so essentially Jake's and his staff's homework for the next couple of years. American Disabilities Act was passed in 1990 and amended in 2008. And under those requirements, the city of Monona is required to address accessibility within all of its facilities and programming. This audit was strictly related to parks and park facilities, but looking at making public services accessible to those with disabilities. All public entities are required to produce a self-evaluation, a lot of times called the access audit, and then any municipality over 50 employees has to have an ADA coordinator, have a grievance procedure, or essentially a way for individuals to request accommodation or file a complaint, and then a transition plan, which is part of what was produced in this project. There's a number of exclusions that different projects and pieces can fall within. And some of those are listed here. I won't go through all of them, but they're fairly rare and need to be well documented if they are considered as part of a project. Transition plan requirements itself are identifying the physical obstacles that are limiting accessibility, describing how those facilities are going to be made accessible, providing a schedule, and then identifying those responsible for implementation. So in this case, park staff through different budget processes. The 2022 audit, we looked at all of the facilities within the parks in June and July. The first section of the report, the audit summaries, looks at the individual deficiencies. So there's listings of including a photo and a description of the observed deficiency. And then the transition plan section looks at the prioritization, phasing, and programming, and how parks will be addressing the items that were found deficient. So within the audits that were conducted, there was 207 observed deficiencies, the most common being accessible routes missing, or things like restroom accessories, whether it's a grab bar in the wrong location or wrong height, or toilet paper dispenser in the wrong location, those types of things. And then looking at accessible parking and route conditions, so lips and gaps within the route, typically in concrete pavement, or joints near asphalt and whatnot. If you're looking through the report, these are kind of a sample of what the audits will look like. They list the deficiency, a couple notes about what is going on in that image, the potential solution, and the code section for reference. This is all also provided within the transition plan Excel spreadsheet that park staff had. capital. Adding in or raking up material to bring that that back into compliance. So it's usually not a large or substantial improvement. Accessible routes. So if you're looking at spots from your parking stalls into the park, making sure that you have curb ramps or different access points from your parking stalls or other access, if it's sidewalk or transit connected. Accessible routes within the facilities, getting to team seating or bleacher areas for a variety of users. And capital projects, so some of the larger things. If you're looking at playground replacements, doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense fiscally to go in and replace a bunch of equipment or different elements when you might be replacing this in 5 years. And it's something to put on the plan that's the determination of replacement. And if a request were to come in the meantime, we could book that individual to determine if that time frame is adequate or if maybe some intermediary improvements may be suggested or something like that in between. So next steps, park staff will continue to use the plan to start to look at and address these elements on an ongoing basis. Things like sidewalks and other features that are constantly moving in our type of climate will be something that will have to be watched and monitored on a regular basis for lips and gaps and other things, your transition points onto piers and other pieces that are dynamic and may change from year to year outside of what was conducted during the audit itself. With that, are there any questions?
Anyone have questions? Is that the end of your presentation, Dan, or are you going to do anything further?
It is, yep. I can go through, if there's any specific questions or anything that anyone on the council has, I can go through some more specifics. Jake is able to speak if he has anything else he wants to add in. You're more than welcome to as well.
Does anyone have any questions for Dan? Otherwise, I'll have Jake speak. Assuming, Jake, is the sound working okay now?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, you have the complete draft plan in your packet, so I don't have anything further unless there's questions.
Are you planning on showing us I know that the Park and Rec Committee went through and prioritized certain things. Are you planning on sharing that with the council at some point? Is there like a report or
we would have
something?
that. Yeah, it's basically just an Excel spreadsheet that lists the priority ranking and kind of year proposed. I will have that available for our next meeting.
Okay, because that's when we'll vote to accept this, I guess. Anybody have any questions?
You guys are fine.
Oh. Okay. Dan, I guess we don't have any questions for you. Did you have more to add, or?
I guess at this point, no. If there's no questions, I think Jake and his staff have a good understanding of the steps to move forward. Working with the Parks Committee to determine priorities and move forward to adoption of the plan as a final step.
I have a feeling there may be more questions when we have the list of the priorities. But if no one has any questions right now, I think we'll wait until next week then, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on.
Can I ask a question related,
Sure.
not related to Park and Rec, but related to what came up as a result of Park and Rec's plan last time, which is that we seem to have an ADA plan for the parks, but we don't seem to have it for the other buildings, and it's all public facilities.
What is did we do some kind of a study at some point of the other buildings? I think I heard that.
They did. I'll have to.
Should ask Dan.
I'll ask Dan to get that for next meeting.
Okay, and then, because the other thing is I don't, for whatever reason, I don't remember Jake getting funding for his plan, and if he got funding for his plan, it seems like it would have come up that if we needed to get an assessment of the other city facilities.
I think, I have a recollection, and maybe Kathy remembers, that we did an assessment of other city facilities quite a while ago.
Okay.
But Dan would know that.
Yeah.
Stan Stefani.
And then the second question related to the same is, he just said that as it relates to this businesses or cities or whatever, if there's over 50 employees.
I'm sorry, I can't.
He said that if there's over 50 employees, there has to be an ADA coordinator. Is somebody on our staff identified?
We do have somebody acting as ADA coordinator, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't remember if it's
Just read that.
Jake. I think it might be Jake.
Jake is the.
I think Jake is the identified media coordinator.
Okay. And then I also just wondered, I know it's a long shot, but I just didn't know if, if the funds that we received, I don't know, what it was, COVID and the, you know. HARPA, yeah. If
That qualifies for.
yeah,
ADA.
if any of it would qualify for.
I don't remember
ADA
offhand, but I'll take a
revenues.
look and get that for the next meeting.
I know qualified water projects
Water
qualify.
projects does, but I don't know where ADA falls in that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move approval.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion on the police contract? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Moore.
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Alder Rademacher.
Aye.
Alder Thomas.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item G, consideration of Resolution 22-11-2602, approving the terms of a one-year collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 311, also put forth by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Move to suspend the rules and take this item out of order.
So again?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion of the fire contract? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Moore.
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Alder Rademacher.
Aye.
Alder Thomas.
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We will move on to reports of committees, commissions, boards, etc. First item up is updates and discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Does anyone have anything to report? Doug?
I just wanted to make the point that the item we just spent time talking about, the ADA Park Transition Plan, is very much part of DEI efforts.
True. Anyone else? I would just like to report I'm currently interviewing applicants for the DEI implementation committee or subcommittee of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And Mark and I have also met with Karen and Harry from Nehemiah to discuss how we're going to handle that going forward. And so hopefully, if I don't bring names to the next meeting, I'll have them in December. I still have several more people to talk to. So, anyone else? DEI. Okay, moving on. Any update or discussion on sustainability efforts? Anyone? Okay. We will move on to committee reports. Alder DePula.
Transportation, I mean, Nancy could talk about it too, but we have another public information hearing.
Users, so hopefully we'll get some results on that.
Okay.
Do that.
Alder Moore.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to what Alder DePula said, that public information meeting is at the Senior Center on the 16th at 10 a.m. And things continue to be moving along briskly at the Plan Commission with various proposals coming forward, and the Plan Commission did have a meeting, or a gathering, I should say, this last week after several restarts for weather over at the Chief's property behind the Shell, just to get more of a sense of the lot and the plans over there. But again, a lot of interest in Monona, and it's exciting to see.
Alder Wood.
Parks Board will be meeting on Wednesday night instead of Tuesday, and we'll be taking public input, discussing the pickleball court usage situation.
Is that in this room?
That will be, yes, that will be here at 6:30. And then license review will also be moved from tomorrow, and it'll be on the 15th.
Would it be streamed this Wednesday?
I don't know. Jake could, well, he's not here.
I'll just ask him tomorrow.
Yeah.
And is it this Wednesday, right?
This Wednesday, yeah.
Okay. Alder Thomas.
No report.
Alder Rademacher.
The Sustainability Committee will be meeting this Thursday to start really digging into our plan and looking at our next seasonal focus. The Landmarks Commission decided not to meet this month, and we'll just continue next month. I think there's just, with limited staffing and the staff being stretched so much, there's been some conversation about really not meeting for the sake of meeting unless we have a healthy agenda. And then finally, something from community media, I have some sad news. This weekend, we lost a member of the WVMO team, Eric Jandro, passed away Friday evening. This is an email that Will Nemo sent to all of the committee members and a few others. He had been part of VMO for about 5 years, came to us through the Department of Workforce Development Vocational Rehabilitation Program, and he had some physical challenges that ultimately led to his life being cut very short, and just my condolences to the VMO family and to Eric's family, of course.
Thank you. Attorney Cole?
I know Aline would want somebody to remind the public of the election tomorrow and to encourage anybody who hasn't already voted to do so.
Good point. Leah?
No report.
Mark?
Bill took mine.
You do still need to get out a doodle poll
I do.
about the meeting with Nehemiah, so we'll try to get that out soon. I have a few things. First of all, I just wanted to mention that Bruce McConnell, who was a longtime member of the Public Works Committee and a very well-appreciated member of that committee, passed away about a week and a half ago or so. So we send condolences to his wife Judy and their family. What else do I have here? There's a cleanup at San Damiano this Saturday.